begin, in fact, this morning we have seen a very interesting tool which is called the minimum spanning tree. So I have thought to present another thing to begin, and I will talk about sensitivity analysis later. So just, I want to show you something about yesterday. Yesterday I have explained a few aspects of numerical design of experiments, and just to recall this, our objective is to place some points inside an input space of dimension D. And I have said that when we design numerical experiments, it's very interesting to be in the class of the space filling design. And space filling design can be defined by two kinds of criteria. The first one is distance-based criterion between the point with minimax design and maximum design that we use in practice because minimax is too costly to compute. And second, I have talked about the criteria of uniformity in terms of distributions and the so-called discrepancy measure. And 8 years ago, we have also studied another thing which is based on the minimum spanning tree. And so I think it's interesting to show you this kind of thing. So if you have a design in dimension D of n points, so for example here I am in dimension 2, we can also perform easily this minimum spanning tree. And some researchers have proposed to make a classification of this design in terms of this tree. So first, I just show here a tree for a random design. So you see you have this kind of cluster and you have this kind of empty zone without any point. And the minimum spanning tree for an optimized design, a space filling design. So you see that the structure is very different in terms of length of each arc. And so the idea is to characterize the statistics of the length of the arcs between each node and to see what happens. So in the bottom of this slide, first I will show this. Here you have the mean of the length and here the standard deviation of the line. So it allows to have a nice classifications on different structure of the repartition of the points. So for example, if you have a structure like this with some cluster of points inside the domain, of course the standard deviation can be small, and the mean is rather small because there are a lot of points which are close each other. At the opposite, if you have something like this with a gradient distribution, it means that you see at the left you have some close points and the points become far away when you go at the right. So in this kind of situations, you can have a large mean and also a large deviation because you have a lot of small distance and a lot of large distance when you build the spanning tree, of course. After I will show you how to build the spanning tree in R. And the researchers who have studied this have also remarked that what we look for when we make space filling design is very regular distributions, so something with a large mean and a very small standard deviation because all the arc here seems equal, you see? So, and the random situations appear at the center of this figure. Okay, so once I have said this, I can go to this. Here we have compared, so for our space filling design, we have compared what happens in terms of this mean and these standard deviations. So I am only in this zone now, and so my random design is here with a mean like this and a standard deviation like this. And after I have placed different design For example, a random Latin hypercube sample, which in fact is very close to the random one in this figure, and the others, like the Sobol sequence, the optimized Latin hypercube sample in terms of discrepancy, and the optimal Latin hypercube sample in terms of maximin. You see, the maximin means to maximize the minimal distance between the points. So this kind of figure allows to characterize a design, and we have seen that it's interesting for this goal. Okay? So if you are interested by this kind of thing, I just wanted to make a little demo. It's in improvised demo. So in the package that I have explained yesterday, so this the package was dice design, we have implemented the computing of the minimal spanning tree. So I call the L page of the dice designs. So I have also here. So in the dice design package, you have here MST criteria, deriving the MST criteria. So it computes both the mean and the standard deviation of the minimal spanning tree. It also computes the minimal spanning tree from a design, of course. And this is the difficulty of the algorithm. So it is based on the PRIMS algorithm that the professor has explained this morning. So you just need a design, and you have the result. And so I can show now an example. Okay, so I take the example from the help page. So at the bottom of each help page, you have some examples. So you see, so I take a design in 2 dimensions with 40 points. I will copy paste this. And I choose to take a random design. Okay, and so you have the result. Okay? It's interesting to see that the tool that has been explained this morning, I have also studied it, but in a very different framework and context. Okay, so you have the points. Now what I can try to do is the same thing with the maximin design. Okay, so I will just take, excuse me, I have to think about this. The same dimension, the same number of points. Okay. So I take what I have explained yesterday, the maximin SA underscore LHS function. So I have also another example here. Dimension 2, 40 points. I will keep 40 points. So I just recall that I have to initialize the algorithm by taking the LHS design, and after I launch the simulated annealing algorithm on the initial design with this parameter, with a geometrical profile for the profile of the temperature. I can show now, just to see the convergence of the simulated algorithm. Okay, I have this convergence. So you see, I optimize the criterion at the beginning, and after it finished, I stabilize. Okay, and now I can show the MST design, the MST of this design. Excuse me. Sorry, it's capital X. I have my MST. So I can, and after, here, he returns me the mean and the standard deviation of the length of the arc length. Okay? So if you are interested, you can use this. Now I pass to, if there is no question on this issue, I can give you the paper if you are interested. The papers can be found here on the help page. So this is in French, but this is the paper in English, this one. So it's based on the algorithm of Prim, 1957. And we have, with my colleagues, I have studied this in this paper. You can find all this reference on the dice design page. Okay, now I want to talk about sensitivity analysis. The main theme of the school is uncertainty quantification and sensitivity analysis. So Professor Thierry Klein will go deeper in sensitivity analysis with some theoretical analysis. And I think it's interesting for you, it can be useful to introduce the goal of this topic, which is a very old topic, but which has been renewed since the 80s and 90s of the last century. Okay, so I recall my main figure. My main figure is this following. I have some inputs with uncertainty probability distributions. My goal is to obtain statistics on the output of the model G. Okay, and what can be useful is to know, to determine the importance of each input in these statistics. Okay, for example, if the statistic is the variance, how contribute each x in the variance? So the classical analysis of variance, but here in a more generalized context. I have shown this first example Tuesday. So why it is useful for engineering studies, for real studies, is that when we perform an uncertainty analysis in order to, so we have a simulation model. We simulate what can occur in a physical phenomena. And of course, we have a lot of uncertainty, as we have explained Monday and Tuesday. And so we obtain the result. For example, for this case of flooding, the mean water level and the standard deviation of the water level. Okay? And after, we can want to have the effect of, to determine which inputs are the most influential on this variability, on this uncertainty. Okay, so here I give some sensitivity indices that I will introduce just after, which are called the Sobol indices, which are based on the variance decompositions of the model G. And so I can see that this input here, I don't remember the name, this is a flow rate, I think, is most influential than this one, which is maybe one Strickler coefficients of the zone number 4. Okay. And we can see this at different locations because our simulation model returns the spatial map of water level. So we have one sensitivity index at each location on this spatial map. Alors, to start, it's useful to define what is the sensitivity. So for example, the basic sensitivity, it can be characterized by the derivative of the output with respect to each input. Okay, so it's simple, rather simple. And it gives us how the output varies with respect to potential perturbation of the inputs. So now if we want to integrate the uncertainty inside this problem, here we don't have any uncertainty. If we want to integrate the uncertainty, we just have to multiply this simple sensitivity measure by the uncertainty of the input. for example, the derivative multiplied by the standard deviation of the input, which is here. Okay? So this can be called a contribution. The contribution, we can also call this an importance measure, and we also call this a sensitivity index. Okay, so we mix all these terms. Okay, so the global view of what we call global sensitivity, the global view of what we call global sensitivity analysis, by comparison to local sensitivity analysis, is that now we do not just take some little perturbation of X, we take the overall variation domain of X with some probability measures, and we look at the overall domain of variation of the output. Okay, so I have shown the first sensitivity index. If we take the square of this thing, okay, we obtain this single term, the contribution of each input variable to the uncertainty of the output variable in terms of variance. I have explained the very simple formula of decomposition on variance on my lecture on Tuesday on the uncertainty propagation step. So this is the same formula, and we see that we have each individual contributions of each X inside the formula. We have the direct answer to the question of global sensitivity analysis. However, it is based on a hypothesis of linearity, which is not respected most of the time. Okay. So I have shown in some practical computer work how we can compute the derivative. I have shown the solution of automatic differentiations on a very simple analytical formula. You have to know that if you have a big program in C or in Python or in Fortran, you can also perform an automatic differentiation with some software which are specialized on this topic. The software eats your program and returns a differentiated program which gives you all the derivatives. So if you are interested, I can give you the name of the French software which does this, but there are also American software, maybe Indian. Okay. So now I want to distinguish different things, mainly two things which don't have the same goal. The first one, so I define now the objectives of sensitivity analysis. So maybe you want just to simplify your model G because there are many inputs, it's of high dimension, and in fact, probably there's only a small number of influential variables, but you don't know them. So this is called the screening step. The screening step allows to determine the non-influential variables. Okay, so of course you can use a standard statistical technique as lasso or other things. It's very similar. But we are in a slightly different context sometimes. Okay, so this is the goal is to simplify your model G. And another great goal is to prioritize each uncertainty source with respect to each other in order to know where you have to work in order to model, to reduce the output uncertainty. So if you determine that X1 is the most influential input in the variance of the output, you know that you have to reduce the uncertainty of X1 and in order to reduce directly the uncertainty of the output. So I call this quantitative partitioning goal, where after this task you have a full ranking of each uncertainty source. And the other topics are not important here. So I will talk about these two things. A screening technique, which is well known in engineering studies, and after I will show the simplest quantitative measures. The first one I are based just on simple correlation and regression analysis on the sample, and the second is based on Sobol indices, which is based on functional variance decomposition. Okay, so screening, and now I want to explain a famous method which has been developed in 1991 by Max Morris, American researcher, which is mainly involved in the design of experiments, and so he had the culture of design of experiments, and he had proposed a very simple way to do this for numerical design of experiments. In fact, it consists just to discretize the space of your inputs in a coarse grid. So here just 4 strata, and randomly we put a one-at-a-time experiment that I have explained yesterday. I have said that one-at-a-time is not a good idea, but here we will repeat the one-at-a-time experiment. So one-at-a-time just consists by putting one point here and realizing the simulations of the model. And after, we randomly choose one direction. So here, x2. We move along these directions. We fix the other directions. We find p2. And we randomly choose another direction. So here, x1. Okay. I don't choose x2 2 times. So here, I have only the choice of x1. I choose a dimension. After I choose a directions, plus or minus. So here I have chosen minus randomly, and I have my third point of my one-at-a-time design. So here, if I am in dimension p, I need p plus 1 points. Okay. And the goal, so, is to evaluate elementary effects. So, from this minus this divided by the lag, I obtain the elementary effect of x1. And in the same manner, I can compute the elementary effect of x2. It's this, just by finite difference. Okay, so for one-at-a-time experiments, I have one elementary effect for each input. And now I repeat this randomly r times. So here 5, we take r5. Each time I choose randomly an initial points, and I choose randomly some directions to vary, and some sense, some dimension, some directions. So at the end of this game, I have an R sample for each elementary effects that I can write like this. So I have some sample of R points, and we define some sensitivity measures. So mu star is the expectation of the absolute value of the elementary effect, and sigma is the standard deviation of the elementary effect. With I here, of course, because we just summarize the elementary effect for each variable. So you see it's very simple, no theory behind this. We can maybe develop some theory if we consider that the elementary effects are kind of derivative. Okay, but yeah. So what it is interesting, because we can consider that the mean mu star is the measure of the sensitivity. If you have a lot of elementary effects which are large, so you have a large mean, so it means that this input is influential, has important effects in mean. And the standard deviation is a different measure, is a measure of interactions or nonlinear effect, and or we don't know, we cannot distinguish this. Okay, so why? It's very simple. Because if if all the elementary effects are the same. So the standard deviation is 0. And all elementary effects are the same, means that this kind of derivatives are constant. And so derivative constant means that the response is linear with respect to the input. Derivative constant is linear. Okay? So when sigma is small, it means that the effect is linear. So when sigma is not small, it means that something happens. So two things can happen. Imagine that I study the elementary effect of x1. So I have this, and this. So if this, and this are different, what does it mean? It means that following the value of x2, the effect of x1 varies, is different. And this is the definition of an interaction. So if this, and this are different, it means that x1 has an interaction with x2. Otherwise, if this and this is different, so you see this and this has the same value of x2. So if it is different, it means that x1 has a nonlinear effect because these finite differences are not constant. Is it clear? Okay. Another detail, why do we take an absolute value here? So I just want to make a little graph. Maybe someone can help me.